Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Pmbc meeting for February 28th, 2024. We have the agenda up here. We'll call the meeting to order. The first order of business is, that's not the agenda, is it? No. Let me segue out of this thing somehow. Is going well.
Mr. Chair, do you need some assistance as far as stopping your share?
Top of the screen, there should be a stop share button.
I got it resume shared. So can you see the agenda?
No, it's the meeting minutes.
Yeah, it's a minute, Steve.
Okay, so I've got the wrong. How about this? Is that any better?
Nothing. It's you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ad-lib it here. So we're going to open the meeting. We've got a warrant. Oh, that is the meeting minutes, isn't it? Can you see this? Is this the agenda?
You're not sharing anything, Steve.
Yes.
Why don't we just read it off?
How about that?
Nope. Here we go.
Okay, so we have a couple of warrants to address. So we can bring those up. The first one is for can you see that?
Yeah, it's sideways though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, this is so this is for the senior center. It's for Commodore Builders and LB Architects for a total of $92,769.59. I did send this out previously. I don't know that anyone had a chance to look at it, but any questions or comments?
No, not
Is there a motion to approve?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call vote. Bob?
Bob Romley, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scudetto, yes.
Bartlett?
Come on, Bartlett.
Bartlett there? I'm assuming he's going to be affirmative, and Steve Moore affirmative. That's great. We'll look at the second warrant, which is for 36 King Street. Can you see that?
No, sir.
No.
Ready.
Bartlett's still muted.
He is a co-host, so he may not be aware that he can unmute himself, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I can unmute. Yeah.
There you go.
I still can't start my video. Oh, there I go. Okay.
Okay, here's the warrant for the 36 King Street for LB Architects and Vertex for a total of it doesn't have a total here.
34,985, Steve.
Yeah, at the bottom.
Right? It's in the black
Oh, I
line.
got it. Yep. Yep. Any comments or questions on that?
Motion to approve the $34,985.
Thanks, Bob. Roll call vote, Mike
Mike Scuduto, yes. Second.
Bartlett
Bartlett, yes.
and Steve, yes. Thank you very much. That takes care of that. So we'll go back to the warrant or the agenda. I'm not going to bother to share this because I'm having issues. But
Minutes for 1:24:24.
so the I don't know why this isn't coming up. But the meeting minutes from January 24th is amended. Sent those out. Any comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, Bob,
Barama, yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett Harvey, yes.
Mike,
Mike Scuduto, yes.
and Steve Moore, yes. All right, let me see if I can get this agenda up here. Here we go. So the next item is the Shaker Lane feasibility study. Steve, you want to talk about that?
I'm assuming you mean me, so yes. We had a designer bid opening or designer proposal due date today at 2:00. We had 11 or 12 designers interested, came through the walkthrough. We received 2 designer proposals today. So we're in the process of following up with MSBA on what the procedure is since we've had less than 3 proposals submitted. We're working with Mark from TTH. We had a meeting today. Ryan was in that meeting, and Jim was part of that meeting as well. So we're working with them to figure out what MSBA recommends, and then we're following up with the Shaker Lane Building Committee. Hopefully going to have a meeting on Tuesday night, discuss that with that committee and what that committee's desire is, and move forward with the 2 or re-advertise it and try to generate some more interest in submitting design firm proposals. Mark Stafford is also going to follow up with some of the design firms that showed up for the walkthrough but did not show up and submit a proposal, and find out some of those reasons, and then use that information to help make that decision with the committee.
Right. Any questions for Steve? Okay, next is Littleton High School roof. Brian's not here, so I'm assuming that's completed. Steve, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, there is a punch list that Socotec generated. We're working with the roofers on completing the items on that punch list, but it's pretty much completed on other than those punch list items. I don't have a date for the punch list items, but they're working on those.
Okay, great. Moving down to the senior center, Brian.
Thanks, Steve. And then jumping back to the warrant articles, just so everyone on the committee knows, we do prepare 2 invoice packets for each project that gets submitted to the accounting department and Steve. If anyone has any questions, we can distribute those to everyone. I don't know if it goes out to everyone, but inside of that will be a detailed budget breakdown as well as tracking on committed costs, what's been spent, what's being recommended for each month. For the senior center, we're going to be including also a monthly report. We can go in depth or as high level as we'd like at the PMBC meetings. I'm going to probably have our site manager on these calls as well to present the monthly report, as well as go through any of the upcoming activities. We have mobilized to the site for the senior center. The temporary fence will be going up soon, if it hadn't already today. They've occupied the neighbor building, and we had a meeting with staff last week, just preparing them for what they can expect and giving them some heads up about our construction schedule. We've also been in touch with the community and the residents that live on Shattuck Street. We'll be preparing kind of a communication bulletin on a weekly or bi-weekly period, so that they can know what to expect. Although we do not anticipate any heavy traffic in Shattuck Street, we have a good logistics plan with the parking, that we have an agreement with the church down the street again for contractor parking. So like I said, we've cut down some trees. We're mobilizing. We're going to be occupying the house. We've also had some discussions with the DPW director about saving the town some money about the fill. This is an export site, so we'll be hauling fill off site. If the DPW has some use for it, we'll be able to receive some credit on a cubic yard basis, that we'll be able to recoup some money back from the contractor on there. So that's good news with that. There is one question I had for the committee, and it is going to be how we are going to be handling change orders. In projects past that I've been involved with the Pmbc and with Littleton, we could go a number of different ways. I could present change orders to the committee on every 2-week basis, where we go into every change order and discuss the validity and whether or not to proceed with it. After it's been vetted by myself and the design team, we could also have a representative to the Pmbc that I could meet with on a regular basis to go over any type of contract changes that are coming through within a reason. And then also, if there's anything substantial that needs to, we wait until a Pmbc meeting. Or we could set a threshold or a budget for which we are working within our contingency. And us as the OPM and the designer, when fully vetted, we have the authority to make some changes that are necessary, but anything that needs to be vetted by the Pmbc, or if it's a we'll call it a want rather than a need, we would bring on an as needed basis to the committee. So I wanted to bring that up for maybe discussion to see how we want to proceed with that. I did bring the first change order of the project. There is a circuit breaker that needed a higher rating. The engineer was in agreement. We went back and forth with the contractor. They've lowered the price slightly. It's been recommended. I have it. It's for $5,212. This would be coming out of the construction contingency that's in our overall budget. That would be reflected in our invoice packet.
Brian, can you hold a second?
Yep.
Upcar, is that somebody that you've got coming in? UPKAR?
I'm thinking that we may have a potential bomber there, but that's your discretion, kind sir.
He's got a hand up. That's the only reason why I'm asking.
Looks like they're already in.
Yeah, but they want to say something, I believe.
Well, let's let Brian finish.
Okay, Brian.
No, yeah, not with me. So
So
I think,
Brian, I think it would be what I would prefer to see is that you put together a list of the potential change orders with your recommendation and a brief description of, you know, the need for the change, and send that out to the committee in advance of a PMBC meeting. And if we have any questions, we could ask you.
Yep. So what
go ahead.
I mean,
I'll ask the rest of the committee if they think that that's a good idea. Bob?
I'd just like to know what the change order is for. That's, and
Sure.
if Brian does that and sends it back to us, at least we'll have an explanation of it.
So what
Yeah.
you'll have in your monthly packet, in addition to bringing the change orders to the meeting, in the packet that we will send out with our monthly reports, we'll have a PCO log, and it's color coded such that it's either under review by us, it's either approved and already a contract amendment to the contractor, or it's recommended to the committee. And we actually give it a classification as well as to what the reasoning for the change order is, whether it was an ask from the owner, whether it was an omission from the designer, or whether it was an unforeseen condition. And so at the end of the day, you can actually see the pie chart of kind of where the change orders have originated from throughout the project.
That sounds good. Mike,
Yep.
What's your thought?
No, I think it makes sense to have it sent out so we can comment if needed.
Yeah, Bartlett?
Yeah, I would like to see them. I think that's great sending them out before the meeting. I a little bit concerned if that is going to delay anything, if there's something that needs to be decided right away.
And I think that's a great point, Bartlett. I think I've got a little bit of a hold on, or my hands on, if something's very urgent and can't wait 2 weeks, that might be the scenario that we're talking about here. I do plan on bringing everything to you guys with the PCO log that you guys can vet out and approve. If there is something that's urgent or something that's needed in order to keep construction schedule on pace, obviously, if it's something large, then it needs to wait anyway in order to be vetted by the Pmbc. But I don't think we haven't hit that yet. But if
Right.
that happens, maybe I'd use you, Steve, to either, if you wanted to call an emergency meeting, or we can discuss on how we want to handle
So
it.
I'd like to propose that the PMBC representatives, Bob and Bartlett, have the discretion to approve anything below a certain amount. Let's just say $15,000 or $20,000. If number one, it's urgent, or two, we don't have a quorum and it's going to be 4 weeks, and because we do have quorum issues. So if the committee is okay with that, I'd like to have someone make the motion.
Steve, I'd go along with that, only insert with Brian's recommendation.
Yeah,
Yes.
we would not approach the PMBC unless it's most of these change orders have a little ping pong back and forth with the contractor, making sure that we're comfortable or the breakdown is sufficient, or if we think it's the overhead or the markup is not per the contract. So yeah, we'd be coming to you if anything that we'd be recommending at that point.
So what's a good threshold? 20,000, 25,
20, I think is
20
sufficient
Okay.
for a project this size. Yep.
So Bob's made a recommendation or a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor, Bob?
Bob Rama, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scaduto, yes.
Bartlett?
Bartlett Harvey, yes.
Steve, yes. Motion passes.
Good. And so just in that vein, we did have the first one. We have not generated the full PCO log yet. That will be with you guys for the next meeting. The first one was what we're considering an omission on the size of the breaker. It's something that ultimately we would have had to pay for if it was in the design. If you wouldn't mind, I can share my screen quickly. I know we have other things to discuss.
I don't think we need to go through that.
Okay, cool. Then the only other item that I did have for the committee was something that I did bring up last week. We asked LLB to just put together some exterior renderings for the committee to take a look at as they're going through some exterior colors and finishes. As those are being submitted, they're starting to put some 3D modeling together. So I wanted to be able to bring this to the committee to show them some. This is the building structure and the size of it, but kind of what the theme of what they're going for right now as they start to narrow down their colors. So I wanted to bring that to everybody.
Looks nice.
So is that the color?
That's if not to quote the architect, but he doesn't know if it's going to be off-white, tan, ecru, or he had a bunch of other names for off-white, but that's the type of theme he was looking for with color of siding, trim, and associated asphalt shingles.
And what is the exterior skin anyway? Is it hardy board or what is it?
Yes, it's a fiber cement
fiber.
board, but it's a clapboard.
Okay.
Patty board?
Just to ask a question, that sort of kidding aside on that, there are some of those questions that are being asked regarding, color, finishes, etc. And speaking to the design team, there were questions about how that process should work. So, Steve, I don't know, Steve Moore, I don't know if there's any thoughts you had on that in terms of, or how you've done it in the past, so that they could get some guidance as to how to proceed with some of those variables that are going to come up with this project.
Well, on the library trustees chose the color. For this project, I defer not to PMBC. We just implement. We don't make policy decisions,
Yep.
but maybe Liz and maybe she gets a group together that has an interest in the building appearance.
And that's just what they're doing for the interior design and the palettes and finish schedules on this. I think as we talked at the last meeting, although PMBC is not going to implement decision-making or policy on colors, we did want to kind of give an update as this thing progresses and the designer starts making some narrowing down colors, as sometimes submittals can be a range of 40 different colors, and we don't need to be spending the time at this meeting going through different shades of white. Just providing updates and hoping to give more, as this gets closer to final selections.
So I can't help but notice, and I know Mark sent me call a plethora of solar panels on the roof.
That's correct. That was the first alternate. That was actually the only alternate that was part of this bid package. When we presented the guaranteed maximum price to the select board, there was sufficient funding at the time to include the solar panel package in this project, so it is being included as part of this, and it is substantially larger than the library.
And the grant monies are factored into that?
Not at this time.
Okay. How about the battery backup or the generator hookup?
Yep. And so that was a conversation that we've been exploring with the design team. What we've kind of decided or understood at this point is a roll-up generator with a manual transfer switch is going to be extremely cumbersome, and at the nature of this all-electric building, in order to back up the entire building, you would need an extremely large generator to be trucked in order to back this power up. So, unless
you would only be backing it up for emergency lighting and power, not the entire building.
So, unfortunately, the building inside, because it had progressed and gone out to bid, by the time we started talking about battery backup, there are no emergency panels. There are no emergency backup panels inside the building. So this thing is an all-electric building that is driven off of a single distribution panel.
Okay.
So the next step, what we've done in talking with both Ryan and with Mark about this is bringing in some possible vendors, discussing battery backup and what our options are with the design that we have right now. I think that's our best bet than trying to go with our engineer of record to try to design something new for ad services that may not have the appetite with the town, but rather bringing in a third party to take a look at and to see what we can do about possible battery backup in this building.
So I'll defer to LLB, but I understand through conversations with the former chairman of the BBRS that fire services is requiring sprinklers in the rooms with batteries, solar batteries. Anyway, that's another conversation.
Sure.
I think
So
Mark and I had that conversation about a week ago.
I would say any vendor that we bring in or third-party firm regarding any battery backup would go through all of the town channels before anything would be implemented in something like this.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions on the senior center? We'll move on to Indian Hill.
I'll kick off from where we are with the Indian Hill property. I know there's been multiple meetings in the past week in regards to where we are and to provide everybody an update. We do have LLB here, Brian Valentine, Jessica White from the design team. On where we are as we started this scope of project right around the new year. We are in a very fast-paced, fast-track design period in order to go out to bid. Our scope and our deliverable was to be able to deliver a total project budget to the town meeting floor in May. In taking the date of when town meeting is and working our way backwards, we understand when the warrant closes. So we know when a bid in hand needs to be in. And then we need to work backwards from Mass General Law procurement laws for the procurement window for that. And so in order to achieve those dates, we want to provide the schedule to the Pmbc tonight, and to get their blessing, we need to advertise in the Central Register this week. Therefore, the documents can be ready for potential bidders next week. At that point, there is a window for addendum and updated drawings that can go out to potential bidders. Any changes or modifications that need to be done. In our schedule, I'll let LLB show the schedule on where we are right now. But ultimately, that is our proposed schedule right now. In order to achieve those dates, we want to make sure that Pmbc is on board, and we'd like them to give us a high-level page turn to go over the programmatic stuff that's happening with the building, as well as the assessment of the building itself and how they prioritized exactly what's going into the scope here to kind of bring some life back to this building and make it the best it can for the town at the best prices that we can, that the town can afford. So with that, I'll give it over to Brian and Jessica. They can go over our schedule and a little high level on the design and what our next steps are.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Brian, I don't know if you want to comment any more on the schedule, but we'd be happy to share this. Like Brian was saying, it's very tight, and we're looking to post to the Central Register tomorrow. And then at the advertisement, and then next week to do the full set of drawings.
Yeah, you can see it's relatively tight but doable, and it gets bids in hand with everything going well by April. What is it? 4/3. Nope, 4/3. So that would give bids in hand 4/3, and I believe there's a duration for getting this on the warrant, and hopefully that falls within the delta of the 4/3 to 5/7.
So Brian, does that leave any time for addendums?
Yes. So what you can see there, Steve, is no, that's okay. What that gives us now is, by advertising tomorrow, it puts us in the queue in the state so that it'll be live to potential bidders on
March
next
6th.
Wednesday. So I believe that's March 4th or March 5th. 6th, I'm sorry. We'll be using Project Dog, which is an e-bidding software that's very convenient, that people can get the documents and get the addendum at that point. That's when it will be available to them. by what we have between March 6th and March 18th is pretty much the window that we have for people to ask questions and for us to provide answers via addendum. So
Got it.
on the
As
18th,
as it relates to filed subbidding.
right, correct. So that's the window we have in order to make modifications, answer questions, while still maintaining the dates that we have right now.
So if there aren't any other questions, we can go through the improvements that we're proposing, and we have we can do a page flip quickly, and if there are any questions, dive into those areas.
Stay on this document real quick if you want to run through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the proposed exterior improvements are to replace the damaged rotten soffits, trim, siding, all new windowsills, all new paint, building signage, as well as site signage, and then a new wood stair and deck off the back. This does not take into consideration the roof work. That was also.
So when you say wood stairs to be replaced in kind, I assume that'll be like a one of those synthetic wood products.
Yeah, so there is an existing exit out the back, out of one of the kitchens, and it is just it's in bad shape, and it's not safe right now as an exit. So we're looking to build that back in place, either with a composite product or like pressure treated wood.
Yeah, my preference would be composite.
Yep.
Thank you for the input.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also had a consultant visit the site to look at all the doors and the hardware, because we noticed a few things were missing as we were walking through. So they did a safety and code check for this. So a few things that they noticed that were not originally on the radar are some exterior doors that need to be either fully replaced or panels replaced, and there are some interior doors as well. You'll see that on the plans when we get to that. All new AV IT security, and that's being coordinated with Nancy and the town's vendor.
Yeah, I can speak to that one. We've met with Nancy Glencross a couple times, as well as the school department's IT director. We're discussing the fiber that needs to go into the building, as well as the access control and security system that we'd be using. As a town building, we'd be using the town's proprietary system. So she's talked with the town's vendor, and there'll be coordination between that and the existing hardware or the new hardware that's going into the building. We looked at any of the IT requirements as a new rack, switches, and associated wiring that's going to need to go into these two new locations.
Brian, I know we're using the town's vendor, but are we circumventing a bid by doing this?
So, like we had at the library, Bob, we put it out to bid. For the library, we put it out to bid, and the bidder, who was Neshoba Security, was not on the state bid list. I worked with the Attorney General's office, who said that they would allow it since the backbone is used out of Town Hall, and they could continue having that same vendor throughout with the same system. So those are the rules that I'm going under right now.
Okay, as long as we're not going to get burnt by doing something.
Right.
Okay, moving to the rest of the upgrades inside. I listed it out by floor. So when you walk into the building, we're going to have a new vestibule window. It's going to be replaced with an operable sliding transaction window and counter, so that people can sign in without going through into the space. That will be card access. Some of the vestibule is going to be taken out to add a storage closet in one of the adjacent conference rooms just to add more storage, as that is a big need for the town. We're replacing the counters in the reception area to be furniture, and we're really relocating some of the millwork in that space to be utilized in other areas on the second floor.
So can I interrupt for a minute? When you say storage is a big need for the town, what are you storing? What's going in the closets?
So on the first floor, mainly it's Parks and Rec, which are they're items that they use daily for activities with the kids, furniture.
I get it. They got a lot of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then the school department has a lot of filing. So on the second floor, there is a secure filing room, but they also have filing cabinets throughout that they need to keep those records on hand, for the past 7 years. So there's a lot of storage areas throughout the building that will be taken over.
They need to go digital.
Easier said than done.
I know.
So we're installing a few doors in the closets that in one of the corridors by the Parks and Rec offices, because they were just opened up. They were removed. It would be nice to close that off. We're dividing offices into multiple offices, which will have to which affect the electrical, the lighting and whatnot in those two spaces. And then the room above will be made into a large conference space. We spoke about removing the gas stove in the existing kitchen. And the Parks and Rec department is requesting a new electric stove, so that they can do a program, cooking classes programs with the kids. That is not something that we currently have in scope. We just have the removal of the existing gas stove at the moment. The theater room will remain as a theater space, but the Parks and Rec department plan to use it daily. So we're looking into some protective enhancements for lighting, because there is a lot of, there's the theater lighting and then the general lighting. We want to make sure that basketballs don't get thrown up into the balcony and affect the workers up on that second floor during the day, during the office day. Parks and Rec is going to have a projector installed above the stage for some games. And then basically throughout the first floor, ceiling upgrades will be done as needed. There's some water damage that happened, so those areas will be fixed, as well as some areas that were affecting the wall construction. We're also doing painting throughout and minimal other finishes. We're resealing and sanding the floors, and that's basically it on the first floor. Other than furniture, they're bringing over as much as they can, but there is some need for some additional pieces. I think I'm just going to pop over to the set so that I can bring up the plan in case anyone has any comments on this floor. So this is the vestibule right here with that transaction window. You can see out in the back is the new stair and deck. We have a new wall here dividing these two offices, and we took this wall out here to make as a shared conference space.
Let me ask you a little off the cuff question here. Is there a room for newly newly minted mothers to, take care of,
A mother's room.
Wellness
yes,
room.
yeah.
Yes, so that was a talking point. We didn't want to have it in one of the bathrooms because
No.
of, yeah. So we were looking actually at this storage room right here. It's a very small room and it has a window, which would be honestly one of the best places in the building for that mother's room. We just need to make sure that there's enough storage throughout. I think the departments were worried that if we made this into a mother's room, they would be losing storage space.
Then we have to put in a refrigerator, right?
There are no code requirements as of yet. There are levels to
Best
it.
practice, yeah.
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 So you can have a lounge chair in there, a counter, a sink, a refrigerator is always nice. But like I said, it's not code required.
So
We can
I'll leave that up to the occupants, but I
Mhm.
would think that that's something that you'd want to consider.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Any other questions on this floor?
I would just say, Jessica, we sent out this link to this bid package
Yeah.
just shortly ago. And even though we would be advertising or be ourselves put in the queue for the central register, there are other consultant drawings that are going to be part of this bid package, and we want to get that out to everybody. As these documents go live, and if there's feedback during that window that we talked about, you can always direct it to me. I can get it to the designer at this point, or the PMBC at that point.
Yeah.
And
So
we
we
don't want
just
to we don't want to take up all the time tonight. I don't know what else is on the agenda, Brian, for us.
Right.
And we only got through the first floor, but if the PMBC wants us to continue, we can. If you are comfortable with where we're at, and answer any other questions that you have.
should I continue to the next floor, or at least do you want to look at the plan?
Yeah, maybe quickly go over the list over the second
Yeah.
floor, just a little bit more brisk.
Yeah, this will go pretty fast. So the second floor, we're putting in a new kitchenette. We're opening the copy room door to allow for a larger space in there. We're replacing a side light. We're adding one internal side light and replacing an existing skylight. We're also proposing 4 solar tubes to bring in more natural light because we could not enlarge any of the existing exterior windows. We're adding some doors, relocating some doors, and then upgrading with paint and possible new furniture, but using existing as much as possible.
So those solar tubes will they be able to be, not quite sure how to put this, but we're probably not going to do the roof at the same time. So if we're putting in solar tubes, will they be able to be constructed so that there's not a lot of work required to make them weather tight when we replace the roof?
They can be flashed into the current roof. Pretty straightforward. It's a newer Velux model that has a plate glass on it rather than the acrylic domes that you're typically used to seeing. So it's a much lower profile from the outside of the building. And that flat plate glass rests on another shroud of aluminum that gets flashed into the roof. And so we do have a roof replacement as a part of this project. It is going to be one of the first alternates that we suggest the town go forward with as this goes out to bid. In case bids aren't favorable on bid day, then that's an alternate that can be chosen to help influence that bid
Would it be one of the first or one of the last alternates?
Well, we were going through it earlier today. There's really not a lot of other alternates that we can really go after that are big ticket items. There are a few small items that we probably put forth to you guys. But that's one that's probably going to sway, the needle a little bit as far as a bid result coming in. So,
Got it.
I would feel that if on bid day you're kind of uncomfortable with things and you need to make a decision, then that's going to be it first and foremost, because it's going to be a big ticket. So then you go after a little smaller stuff. My opinion.
Yep.
All right, I can jump on into the basement upgrades. There's a lot of mechanical and electrical upgrades down there, as some of the units are non-functioning, and there is not many lights down there at all. We're demoing some of the existing walls to open up the space to be a larger overall room for the kids. We're opening up some interior windows. There's some basically masonry infilled windows that we're reopening. We're putting in a new game room with built-in screens and consoles. There's a new clubhouse with some built-in seating and nook and storage areas. I mentioned the new lighting, and again, we're reusing as much existing furniture as possible, and adding new as necessary. So I'll just bring up the furniture plan so you can see that a bit more. These are the windows that are opening up into the existing windows. We're reopening to allow the light from the exterior to come through into this space. We have the two mechanical and storage rooms over here.
And the large center space is what we're calling the clubhouse. The room to the left is homework area. The room in the upper left corner is the game area and the game nook. So the screens and equipment that they have for playing will exist up in there. And that's all fed off the circulation corridor, elevator, and stairs.
Looks great.
You want to just show the second floor real quick, school department?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, so I guess first floor, we're going to use the open lobby space as a somewhat meeting area, if impromptu meetings, if necessary, and seating, have some lounge seating in there as well. You can see some training tables in these two rooms so that they can be reconfigured and used as needed. And then on the second floor, it is mostly their offices. This is the secure filing over here. The reception area, and then the solar tubes we're proposing are in this lobby area, and then their kitchenette.
Nice.
I'll add quickly as well. As you can see on these plans, there is a furniture element to this that's going to be run through the owner. That's not going to be part of the general contractor's bid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that LLB has been contracted with for the interior designing of this. We'll be working with them for working with furniture vendors, whether going out for separate pricing, working off of the state bid list, in order to get the results and the best price that we need for what the furniture package is going to be. I know Jessica's also had a number of meetings with both departments about any type of filing or storage or desks that can be moved over from the current place if they're in good condition or if they want to keep them. So we're itemizing that, and we'll be putting that out to bid for inclusion into the ask at town meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure Steve Mark wants to keep his desk.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was, I'm wondering, in the where they're proposing a basketball court with the stage, how difficult is it going to be to switch from one use to the other? If there's games in there during the day, how much work would it be to have a school theater or a musical or some other event in there at night?
So the games that are on the stage are going to be a built-in projector that will be installed on the trusses. So there's nothing really on the floor itself.
Okay.
And then we're proposing mobile basketball hoops. But depending on how we want to protect the space, whether that be, hockey nets or some sort of system so that we're protecting the walls and the balcony. I guess I would defer to Alicia. I think she's on this call as to how much stuff they plan to have in the theater and how much would be stored or left out.
My opinion, this is Brian with LLP, is that there just needs to be a memorandum of understanding written between the departments and, on uses and storage and things like that, so that it's pretty clear. Operationally.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any more questions or comments on the Indian Hill or 36 King?
Not yet.
My only other thing, Steve, I'm sorry to jump in, is looking at the calendar now, the next PMBC meeting is going to be on the 13th of March.
Yep.
So that puts us, we'll be having a pre-bid conference the following day for any prospective general contractors or any filed sub-bids that want to walk the site. But that also will be coming up quickly on our last day for addendum. So we'll bring everybody on the call here will be in possession of the bid documents. But then we will also be kind of asking or bringing to the table if there are any changes or any conversations that have been having up to that point about anything that needs to be implemented into the design.
Okay, so that's another issue about having a quorum. If we don't have a quorum, we need to, and I know that there is some kind of a provision in Mass General Law that allows for, and I'll have to get with Diane on this. So I'll get back to you on that. In the event that we don't have a quorum.
It looks like two people have their hand raised but are muted.
I can't see.
It's this Brian Tarbox and Mark Rombacher.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Yeah. And just FYI, Finance Committee, but obviously not speaking for them. But when might the Finance Committee get a look at the bids or the total number? Because we have to, we have to have some input on that as we go to town meeting, especially since last time we got it at the very last minute and ended up voting against. So just looking for a date when we might get a number.
Yep. So you can see that on the schedule in front of you that the date of 4/3/24 is the anticipated date that the GC bids would be due. So that bid package would be inclusive of the filed sub bidders that they chose to go with, and so that would be the low apparent bidder. We obviously want to do our due diligence and do our DCAM evaluations and make sure that they're responsible as well, along with the awarding authority. But Brian Force, I believe you have a total project budget, which is pretty close to where it needs to be minus this bid number. And so that may be able to be shared now, knowing that that bid number is going to fluctuate within a certain delta and maybe from the date that the bid is actually in, that'll get solidified and you'll have that duration with the actual number in it.
That's correct. And Brian, what my hope is that in the next few weeks, we start really defining and refining our total project budget so that when that bid is in hand, we're ready to share that with everyone ahead of the town meeting. And I do understand that this is also it's a very tight turnaround, and we tried to do this and get the design as quickly as possible, such that it gave the town as much time as possible prior to town meeting. So the hope is that we can get in front of some committees after the 4th with a firm number, which will have furniture, soft costs, contingencies, and construction costs all put in together for review by all the committees.
Okay, that's great. I really appreciate it, and we appreciate all the work y'all are doing under the very tight timeline. If you do have any sort of ballparking number, which I think you said that would be great to get.
Sure. And what I'll do is, what I've been working off was the original. If you remember the first time that we met with the finance committee, which was, like you said, very last minute. I've been using that as kind of a live document, and if you maybe give me a week or so to kind of put some up to date figures in there, I can share that and provide that with everybody.
That would be outstanding. Thank you so much. Really.
So Brian Fors, I think we need to send that all through Ryan Ferreira.
Correct.
Then he can distribute it to the other town departments.
Correct.
Yep.
Mark Raumbacher.
Yeah, so I had a question on the performing arts space. If it's going to be used as like a gym, are we doing anything to protect those windows? Is that part of the plan? There's a lot of windows in that space. It'd be a shame to see a basketball go through them immediately.
Yeah, as Jessica mentioned, we're anticipating provisions in there to protect it to the best of our ability. We don't want to take away from the space and cage it necessarily, but filming options on the glass would help mitigate that.
I wasn't sure if you were protecting the floor or what you were protecting when you said that. So that was the question. So okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Steve Mark.
Yeah, I think the windows in that space already have some kind of a protective covering over them already. Alicia probably can chime in on that as well, but I think those windows are already protected in its current configuration.
So
Alicia?
sorry about that. There's actually not very many windows at all. On the internal wall, there are none. And then on the exterior wall, they're up really high and they're smaller. So I know with all the curtains, it looks like there's giant windows there, but there's really not.
But we would want to add any film safety wise to that, just to give it a little bit extra protection. Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Mark, your hand is still up. I don't know if you have another question. Okay.
If you don't mind, I have one more question, I think, and I can probably deal with Brian Fors on this. Are you guys including some of those soft costs for movers and file, to move the files over and the current furniture over and things like that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
Steve, you can't have a bigger office, Steve.
No, but I'll take over my 1945 desk. All right. We've been working with Jessica and her team about what furniture we can take over from our office. So we're trying to recycle as much furniture as we can. I'm also working with our phone company provider contractor to get a quote to move the current phone system that we have in our offices now over to the new offices. I have a meeting with them next week, and I'll get that number over to Brian Fors as fast as I can.
Yeah, that'll be real helpful, because right now all I have are placeholders for phones and AV, things like that we want to make sure we have accounted for, so we're not taking anything out of contingency. So an accurate number helps out a lot.
Yep. No, we appreciate everything you're doing, Brian and Jessica, and Brian Valentine as well. Thank you.
That's interesting, Steve Mark. We moved into a new office, I'd say about a year ago, and we have absolutely no desk phones whatsoever. Well, it's all cell phones.
Yeah, that's my office too.
Wow.
So you might want to rethink that landline stuff because it's a cost.
Actually, it's not a huge cost. So
Okay, just throwing that out.
yeah, we already had the system. It's a matter of moving it over and, we might have to add a new switch or a new server or something, but, it should be relatively painless. Well, we'll see.
So, your 1945 phone with your 1945 desk.
Yeah.
Rotary dial still.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on Indian Hill?
Oh, Brian Force, I don't know if this is appropriate for them to vote on, or if it needs to happen for us to post tomorrow. I just want to make sure that we have.
No,
it cleared
that's the
up.
plan unless there's any blowback or feedback on it. That is our proposed schedule. We'll be back with you guys at the next meeting in March with an updated schedule. Hopefully all the same dates are still the same. And any questions that we've received from any contractors and any feedback that we've done in the interim. So that is our plan right now.
I make a motion that we go on with the proposed schedule.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Bob,
Bob Rumley, yes.
Mike,
Mike Scaduno, yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett, yes.
and Steve, yes. Motion carries.
Ready, set, go.
Moving on to member input. Bob,
I'm all set, thank you.
Bartlett,
I'm all set, thanks.
Mike,
I'm good, thanks.
and I'm okay. So is there a
Thank you for
motion to
everybody that
adjourn?
showed up.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Bob,
Bob Rumley, yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett, yes.
Mike,
Mike Scaduno, yes.
and Steve, yes. And thank you very much. The next meeting is March 13th at 7 o'clock. And we'll see you then. Thanks for your participation.